The following program is sponsored by Capitec.
Hello and a very warm welcome to the Insider Essay, your guide to living better. Join us today as we open up to hidden treasures with travel writer Jared Ruttenburg, who's in the town of McGregor to try some flippen lekker ice cream. Jay Something invites us indoors for the story of how he spent lockdown recording 10 of the hits that shaped his music. Get behind the lens with celebrity stills photographer Thomas Mokgosi, who sees inner life where some see only color or black and white. Meet a hidden gem of Limpopo in Adine Roode, who has spent her life rehabilitating orphaned baby elephants. And in Hout Bay, this mountainside sanctuary is home to a treasure in African art and craft. To photographer Salani Thomas Mokgosi, hidden treasures lie in capturing qualities of a person which may not seem obvious at first glance. Beyond image, his work reveals character, and it's made him a favorite of the A-list.
Hi, the Insider Essay. My name is Thomas, also known as Stills by Tom. Welcome to my new home. Please come in. My love for photography and passion starts from way back. As I was going to tertiary, I started developing a huge love for graphics. And at that time, I was all over the place. I remember I would do websites, I would do flyers for events, I would do a tiny bit of photography, obviously not at the point that one is doing it right now, but it started growing to a point where I started feeling the need to just see where my love and passion was more driven, and it had to be photography. So at that moment, I needed to take a decision to literally stop everything that I was doing at the time. Eventually, about 7 years ago, I decided, you know what, the only thing I'm going to carry in the morning when I wake up is a camera.
Every choice Tom makes must serve the final product, and having a home studio allows him to be a more focused photographer.
This house is a 3-bedroom. We've got 3 bedrooms upstairs, and then we've got 2 lounges downstairs, a dining area, and a study that I actually converted into a change room. Where we're standing now is actually my lounge that I've converted into my home studio, where I actually do most, if not all, my studio shoots. The purchase for the home was actually inspired more by me having wanted a home studio for a while. So I looked for a space that could actually accommodate me personally and have huge enough space to accommodate my studio.
At 33, what matters most in this man's life is getting to a point where he has the liberty to make his own rules and to live by them.
Still speaking of all the different spaces in the house, this lounge has to be my absolute favorite. I like it because it gives me an opportunity to just get away from work while still working, unwind, play some games, have a drink, and just think of fresher ideas.
It strikes a balanced atmosphere between the personal and professional, where Tom gets to feel his most creative.
What qualifies a good image is in the way that you take it, so you need to really understand lighting. When anybody asks you what is the definition of photography, it's basically painting with lighting. You've got a vision of how you want your image to look, you need to light it the way you want it, and obviously it still boils down to the person that you shoot in the subject. Will they also just interpret it the same way that you have envisioned it? And it then goes down to editing. That also plays a huge role in how you actually balance all of that. My portfolio bounces back from, the day I actually decided I'm going to leave everything and just focus on photography, invested in a medium camera. I mean, it was the best thing at the time. And I went to a club, I bumped into Lulu Cafe and Black Motion. I took photos of them for free, and it elevates to Lulu Cafe calling me for another event that he was actually hosting every Wednesday, and that's where I started, getting even more familiar with the event side of things. Jumps to me shooting for Zinhle. I actually was shooting an event. Zinhle was playing there. We knew each other, but at that time we had lost a bit of touch, and that's what ended up actually reigniting our friendship.
In the age of Instagram, there are high stakes in being responsible for the image of A-list clients like DJ Zinhle.
I have known Tom for a long time. I think we're approaching a decade now of working together. We met at the club. He'd come to my shows and have nothing to do. I think he realized that I need to actually find something to do so I can gain access to these clubs. So one time he just came with a camera, and I think he had practiced because the pictures were pretty good. He sent them to me, and the rest is history. I think Tom's work is what has set the standard for a lot of photographers in South Africa. I worked with him when he was starting out and photography was up and coming, and I feel like he's one of the first people that really pioneered the industry. He's reliable, he understands the trends, he understands what's new in photography, so that is what makes him popular.
The man behind the stills credits the writings of Pastor Miles Monroe for helping him to align his purpose, principles, and planning. Skills which came in handy prepping for that night's party.
It's that time of the night now. We're getting ready for the main event downstairs. It's looking quite good from where I'm standing. Today we're wearing pass. So let's see how it feels and looks on me. And it's so far looking like the perfect fit I requested. So my greatest achievement this year has been, number one, the house that we're at now. I'm so excited to actually host people for the first time, on my birthday, and with 7 years of Stills by Tom's, it makes it even super special. A birthday wish to myself would be more growth, especially career-wise, breaking more boundaries and making other people know and believe that anything that you put your mind to is possible. I'm quite excited. I was quite anxious and nervous the whole day, but seeing what you can see behind me, I'm over the moon. And I hope my guests will also love this. It promises to be a night of fun, of bliss, and just breaking bread with my close people.
Tom is one person who always show up for other people, and I thought for myself that, I have to be here and support him as well, and to be part of, his celebration. Tom takes the most amazing images. He's a hard worker, and to see that he's here today goes to show how much work he puts into his craft, and the people that are also here today are also part of the work that he's done over the years.
Tom is the best at what he does. I think he was even one of the first top-notch, top-tier photographers or videographers in the country. All his work speaks for itself.
His work ethic is amazing. I think that's why he has so many return clients. That's why so many people trust him for the events. He is very particular with the way that he works as well as his editing. So I think he knows how to carry himself and how to make sure that the work is really done really, really well. So a big ups to Tom, obviously, because he understands what people want and how to deliver that.
There's a saying that I love, that money doesn't buy happiness, but money can buy you things that make you happy. And I'm glad that when I see you as a person, Tom, you make me happy. Because you're not about money. You are a true, authentic, genuine person that you are. Stay genuine.
Will it be easy? Nope. Worth it? Absolutely. Those are the words Thomas Mokgosi lives by.
I think the best thing I can do for him is just wish that all his dreams come true. He was able to create a job and live off it. And I think there's something in it for other people too. So I just wish that he grows and he makes this industry big so that other people can also benefit from the industry.
Coming up, between the mountainside setting and trove of African art, this home is a treasure both inside and out.
Sponsored by Capitec.
When lockdown stopped international travel, the American owner of this hidden treasure of a retreat in Hout Bay saw a chance to revamp it. Fast forward 2 years and the sanctuary's wellness director is loving being able to welcome guests back.
Hi, I'm Romy Paul. Welcome to Villa Maison Noir. Please come inside. Future Farm Sanctuary is situated in a pocket on the back of Table Mountain, right on the slopes high up in Hout Bay. Jim Brett is the owner. He is a very well-known and well-respected retail executive from New York. He had been to every corner of the earth, and when he landed in Cape Town, he just knew that this was where he wanted to retire. And he spent about 7 years on property websites looking for property in Cape Town. And when he arrived at Maison Noir, he knew that this was the place. When Jim entered the space, he really felt immersed in nature. He felt like it was a pocket of abundance, and he was really drawn to the architecture, which was the brainchild of architect Paolo Della Peri. It was designed like an African kraal, but it was also really open plan and connected with Jim's love of the elements. So he really felt an experience of the elements even when he was inside the house.
The home has evolved from a residence to being shared as a place to find renewal.
This was originally meant as a home for him and his partner Ed to retire in. But when he got here, he realized how he just started to feel better because he started to connect with the elements in nature and himself. And that's when he decided to expand the space into a sanctuary, and he expanded beyond this villa.
The reimagining of these interiors was led by design director Diana Lerato George, who as a young girl would join her father's trips to buy craft from villages around southern Africa.
The focus has been around the sort of design aspects on the property and bringing a real focus to art and design, and especially with a focus on the continent as well. It's really a celebration of the artisans and the artists on the African continent.
A clear philosophy guided every choice.
We work around 3 sort of design principles, and we call those 3 elemental living. The first being natural. It's where we are in this beautiful natural hub of the forest and Hout Bay, so use that as a source of inspiration. The next is cultural, where we take cultural references. And then there's texture, and that is the third principle that weaves throughout all the properties and links them together.
Given such unrivaled surroundings, the interiors had to complement, not compete.
We achieved the overall look and feel of Maison Noir, starting at the basis. The name of the house is, Maison Noir, Black House. The communal areas have always been quite neutral, so we've used neutral tones, blacks, greys, and whites, together with natural woods and natural colors. And then we also looked at layering pieces that we had designed in-house. And then the finishing touch was adding this beautiful layer of craft and art and these beautiful stories and pieces that are kind of woven throughout the property.
Diana proudly champions our unique artists.
There's one piece that I love, and that's by Madoda Fani, and he's taken traditional techniques in terms of pot making and clay, but really elevated that with design. And I think it's just this beauty of taking a traditional craft and exploring how to evolve that. And he's an incredibly talented artist. I just have this complete love for these enlightened me pots. And she's a local designer, and she creates these interpretations of the African vessels, but using recycled paper. And it's a very, very contemporary way of showing design. I think we all have this perception and an understanding of what we think African craft is, and this blows it into a different realm of understanding. And it's inexpensive. It's the kind of thing that anybody could afford and use that as an art piece within their home.
Supporting female-owned businesses who work with authentic artisans and crafters was a priority, so that each choice here makes a difference in local communities.
Now we're in the TV rooms. I think this is probably one of the areas where people congregate, and it's quite a cozy space. And we're obviously trying to get people away from sitting in front of a screen, but this is really where it can be cozy. It's comforting, it's small enough. It's really a cocoon kind of space, and I think the dark walls create that warmth to it.
Here is a feature which anyone can recreate at home.
One of the big focal points in the room is this basketry on the wall. If you look at the basket, it's a combination of these chunky totemic pieces and then these very fine woven baskets that come out of Swaziland in a very, very rural area. So it's very close to my heart because I was born in Swaziland, but I think it's just worked out really well.
Homegrown design is literally woven into each look.
Some of the pieces started throughout the house, pieces that have been designed in-house by the design team. And one of them is this coffee table. And you can see there's definitely a reference to African design. We've looked at the wood, the way that it's finished, and then we've kind of paired that with an in-house rug design. So there's all these little hidden treasures that are just really special and unique to the property.
Diana gets the sense of drama in her design from her mother, Gladys Raboroko George, a theatre performer who was part of the original cast of the musical Ipitombi.
We're now in the gallery space, and this space has always been called a gallery, but it was a non-functional space, and all the bedrooms filter into this space. So I think the biggest change that we tried to do here was create these pockets and areas where people could just sit and relax. And then obviously, with it being called the gallery, was just to curate and pull these beautiful pieces of art that we've put up against the wall, and really the reflection of all the art that Jim really loves. These three pieces on this wall are done by Satendra Latuli, and he's a young artist out of KwaZulu-Natal. And it's really about cutting and carving into a block of wood. But then he creates these beautiful prints and artworks by layering the color on and then doing this woodcut prints out of it. African basketry is just so synonymous with the continent, and somebody that I think is really pushing the boundaries of what that interpretation of the African basket is probably Binky from Design Africa. And I think she really layers kind of her design aesthetic. She works very, very closely with the crafters. And I think she's just layered these pieces with beadwork and paint, and they're just so different from what you would normally see.
Owner Jim Brett made a career as a visionary homeware and fashion CEO. The most personal of rooms here reflect his celebrated instinct for fabrics and interiors.
We're now in the Grand Master Suite, and this is the biggest bedroom on the property. It's quite vast. And I think for all the rooms, our focus here was looking at that design principle of texture and pattern and layering of texture and weaves. Around the room, you'll see these iconic prints from Ardmore, and I think Jim has a real love for their craft, and we have a few of the ceramic pieces dotted around, but we really wanted, as a print focus, to be looking at these iconic African prints.
Many international guests and business people visit here, so having the proudly South African Ardmore prints followed through in every bedroom is a fine showcase of our talent.
Perhaps the most special thing about this room is the incredible view outside. This is when we look at nature coming into the property and how we've designed around that. But you've got these incredible big opening sliding doors, and the view from when you wake up is just this incredible vista of like the mountain and the forest.
For those visitors looking to discover hidden treasure around them or within themselves, Romy is on hand to help them find their way forward.
Future Found is really about reimagining a future by looking to ancient wisdom. That's where we get our regenerative philosophy from. We've looked at a lot of ancient and indigenous practices to inspire us to provide a sanctuary experience, and coming back to a more regenerative and circular way of living. It's all about whole systems thinking, whole being, well-being, and realigning with nature's rhythms.
Few words are needed to get you into that headspace when the surrounds are this zen.
We created very sensory experiences in our hospitality offering so that they would slow down, just drop out of the mind and drop into the present moment. The property is so well suited to well-being because of its immersion in nature. I think nature is the core of who we are and really guides our whole philosophy. So being immersed in this space really helps one to slow down and connect to the self and just connect to the breath.
Whether you feel it in a garden yoga session with Romy Paul or Diana George's design, this is a place to find your center and envision your future. Just ahead, when young elephants are orphaned, in steps Adine Roode and her team to say, "We'll be your herd." were drawn to Limpopo in part by this magnificent lodge, but mostly by the hidden treasure which it helps to support. This is where Adine Roode runs Herd, or Houtspruit Elephant Rehabilitation and Development. She is the founder and has made it her life's work to give these babies a second chance.
To take care of an elephant orphan is quite labor intensive. You have a very solid, dedicated group of carers to assist you. And the reason why we work on a ratio of 3 to 4 people is that we can rotate them. For the elephant orphan not to get attached just to one person, because you can just imagine if one person is attached to the elephant and he needs to go on leave, what will happen to that little one that's having this strong bond? And you can lose her because it's a second loss. They already lost their family, and to lose another person is just too much at that stage. Kanisa was an orphan that was found in a snare. And she had very bad injuries. Actually, if you can see here, she's got marks where the snares went through. And it actually went through her mouth and then also behind her ears, and it cut off this ear.
The lessons began when Adine's mother, Lente Roode, hand-reared their first orphaned elephant 25 years ago.
You also need the expertise of your milk formula, which is quite tricky because it changes over the 4 years. We actually use some of the elephant dung for her to eat, fresh dung. We make some elephant dung water, which I add to the milk, because all those microbacteria is a huge asset to their stomach. And then we also have a surrogate mother called Lammy, which is a sheep. Now, she is the first introduction that we keep with the little ones, just to keep the little ones calm. There's another body, should someone of us step out to go and make milk.
As its name suggests, Herd creates an adoptive family structure for baby elephants that is crucial for their well-being and survival.
Herd actually started in 2019 because of a lot of different circumstances. Now, the main reason was in 2016, we started seeing a huge increase of elephant orphans that needed assistance. And because of the Jabulani herd that accepted these orphans, they were a perfect herd to assist us in raising our orphans that's coming in. So all the orphans that is coming in are coming from human-animal conflict situations. For an elephant orphan to survive without a family and without a mother, it is very complicated because they do need other elephants. And that fine balance between the amount of carers, how they look after the elephants, and the elephant herd all plays a huge role in the survival of an elephant orphan.
A mother of 2, Adine started out as an accountant but moved into marketing and has learnt the impact of social media in sharing awareness of these giants.
So this is the Bakwe. This is our biggest elephant bull. He's about 34 years of age, and as you can see, he's huge. So we've got Shepherd and Jusia that is also with, and they know him very well. You could see the blow that he gave. So that's also for them. They will smell you. So their scent and their ears is very good, while their eyesight is not as good. This is Samupan. Now, Samupan is also one of our big bulls. And then we've got Jabulani just behind you. Now, Jabulani is actually one of our first elephants that we hand-raised, and he's the reason for this whole operation.
As this matriarch says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And Kara, Shepherd and Komazana is a pillar of her team.
My job is to take care of the elephants. So I start my day early in the mornings at 6, whereby we let the elephants out of the stables. We then lead them into the bush, and then we find a spot where they're gonna forage. Just keep an eye on them, because at the end of the day, they must all go back to the stables. The challenges we face, they still remain wild animals, so we still need to be alert all the times, besides weather conditions and stuff like that. But you have to keep in mind that we're still dealing with wild animals.
In the wild, with their movement unrestricted, elephants are nature's landscape architects. But within the borders of a park, their impact needs to be managed.
With the introduction of the elephants, the impact of the elephants, we needed to conserve and rehabilitate the land. We now sat with quite a big problem that needed addressing. So what we do is, if you look to the right-hand side, you will see that it's quite densely packed with thorn tree branches. We use a tractor with an implement to break the crust. We then use our elephant dung compost as a substrate for grass seeds to germinate in, and from there on we pack it. As the grass germinates, they will be protected by the branches, and it will also give it a bit of time.
Going a long way towards self-sustainability, this rehabilitation initiative grows a lot of its own feed.
Bannergrass is a hybrid grass between babala and napier, very similar to sugarcane in appearance and in taste, but we use it as a supplementary feed for our elephants. In the winter, the bush does not have as much roughage, as much fresh food for the elephants, so we chop this on a daily basis and provide it to them inside the paddocks. This will form part of their daily ration, which comprises out of lucerne, bannergrass and branches harvested from the reserve.
Even better, they use elephant dung compost to grow that grass feed and as a soil underlayer to green the park.
If you look at a lodge on a Big 5 game reserve such as this one, food waste is being generated just as a byproduct of your daily operations. So what we will do is we've implemented a system called bukashi, which is a Japanese-derived system. It is essentially a fermentation process that changes the chemical structure of the food. After this bukashi process is completed, we will then add it to the compost, and just following the same turning cycle as in the normal composting process.
In a similar approach to sustaining itself, Herd is partly supported by the luxury lodge where Adine has been the very successful MD for 8 years.
The reason why we built the lodge was to generate income, to assist looking after the elephants, to have a business model, and we also have an elephant levy that guests actually contribute directly toward Herd, which is a non-profit organization. Jabulani actually offers a soulful safari experience. So not only offering guests the game drives in a Big 5 game reserve, but adding your experiences around the elephants, watching them swim, watching them at sunset as they return back from their day out in the bush. So that really is adding to the whole experience.
If this multi-talented woman inherited her mother Lenta's way with animals, then from her father Johan, she learned how to run an efficient business.
With my hours that I work from early morning to late afternoon, early evenings, and sometimes throughout the night, I want a bank that's accessible. Capitec has this remote onboarding service where you can, in the comfort of your home, open an account which is secure, the convenient time, whenever it suits you, without going into a branch. So all that you have to do is pick up your smartphone, download the Capitec app, add your SA ID number, take a couple of selfies, enter your personal details, and voila, you have a new bank account. Another convenient aspect is that my card will be delivered to me at my doorstep, but I'm still able to use my mobile app for banking or shopping.
Leaving time for her mission.
One of the objectives that we definitely are focusing on is how to bring in from our communities the education, but not only the communities, also international, and bringing all the different worlds that's so far apart from each other to the elephants in understanding their ways and their needs. We can learn from their behavior through the research on each aspect. If a businessman walks in looking at the project, He must feel rewarded. He must see the value in her trust. However, if a child of 5 years also see the same project, he must also take something back home. And that must be for each and everyone, all walks of life must see the value in what elephants bring back for them.
For her work, Adine Roode was recognized by a World Hospitality Organization as their Women of the Year for 2020. If you have your own plan on how we and our natural world can live better, let us know and stand a chance of winning R1,000. Simply reply to the competition post on the Insider SA social media platforms using hashtag CapitechLiveBetter. T's and C's apply and can be found on the Insider SA website. Right after this, butterbean mash, homemade ice cream, and a gathering of all the faiths in a town called McGregor.
Sponsored by Capitec.
Find yourself is the invitation this town extends to all who visit. Named after a Scottish reverend, it recently welcomed a new pilgrim in Anglican pastor and travel journalist Jared Ruttenburg.
McGregor began as an agricultural village in the 1800s, and in the early 1900s there was a rumour that the road that connected the town with Robertson was going to be extended all the way through to Greyton. However, the road never materialised, and I think that's one of the reasons why the town has felt like it's a little bit trapped in time. It's also one of the reasons why the locals call it the town on the road to nowhere, because that road leaves town, heads into the mountains and disappears into nothing. McGregor is well known for being an almost perfectly preserved Cape Dutch 19th century village filled with these gorgeous whitewashed cottages, and it embraces of various different types of architecture from Georgian to Cape Dutch and Victorian.
Other treasures can be found hidden in this unassuming looking home industry shop.
I'm Natalie Ritson. I'm the owner of Flippen, Lekker, and I'm here in McGregor. It's a little community shop where everybody who lives in the community that makes something can bring it and stock it here and sell it here. So we started our ice cream business because our daughter absolutely loves ice cream, and one of our family traditions was to go every Sunday to take her to a different ice cream shop. When we got here, there was nowhere to go, and my husband got gifted a recipe book from his granny. He said, well, let's make ice cream. We started making ice cream, and our friends started wanting some ice cream, and then their friends started wanting ice cream, and it all kind of organically grew like that.
You guys have come in as outsiders, so what's the process been like of meeting people and getting to know your neighbours?
We actually have a funny family joke that as soon as we step out of our house, our daughter says, oh, no, we're going to meet this person or we're going to meet that person. We can never actually leave the front of our house because we just bump into everybody. We're all kind of friendly and everybody's got something nice to say in the morning. Everybody greets everybody else and it's just lovely here. We love it.
As does another local, Mira Weeder. After managing 2 businesses ran her health off its feet, she rose again through a love of creative cooking, which then became an enterprise.
I think if you're not born in McGregor, I'm not sure if you are an actual official McGregorite, but I've been here now for 22 years and I'm so passionate about this little town. I've always loved tourism in South Africa and it's still a big passion of mine. In the last couple of years, both professionally and personally, there's been a shift in my career more towards the plant-based movement and healing with foods. In 2019, my journey really took a massive change in terms of my health. I was diagnosed with adrenal fatigue and severe burnout. And so I've really used food as a healing modality for myself, and I'm so passionate about it in terms of the healing space and in terms of the sustainability space and what it can do not just for our health but also for the planet as a whole.
This is cooking to heal instead of hurt, every recipe being gluten, dairy and refined sugar-free.
So I think it's so important to know where your food comes from. So I'm really excited to take you around the garden. We are at the beginning of spring, so we are going to be picking some beautiful speckboom, which is native to South Africa. We're also going to pick some calendula, which is an incredible flower to use in food, also for medicinal reasons. And then we are going to pick the first of our spring peas, which I'm so excited to include in our dish today.
Well, this is a lovely surprise, a little kitchen set up in the garden. What's on the menu for today?
Welcome to my garden kitchen. We are doing a spring celebration today, and our first dish is going to be roasted carrots on a beautiful butter bean puree mash hybrid with a carrot top pesto and some toasted sunflower seeds. I'm cooking the carrots in a little bit of water and then save the water, and you can use it as a base for a broth or a stock. You can freeze it in ice cubes and chuck it into your cooking. It adds beautiful flavor and beautiful, delicious nutrients. So these will steam in here, and then we're going to roast them in the oven, and you are prepping some onions that are going to go into our butter bean mash.
Mira is a woman who cooks intuitively and calls herself a serial chucker for the bits and pieces she throws in. But she does post fantastically detailed recipes on her website.
Now that our carrots are done, it's time for part 2. What do we have here?
Our second dish of the day is a spring celebration salad with some of the things we foraged from the garden earlier.
Now, I recognize almost everything here, except for firstly, what is this?
This is millet. It's an ancient grain. It's packed with fiber and protein, lots of vitamins, minerals, so great with all of its nutrients. I've cooked it like a light and fluffy grain, so I gave it a nice toast, dry in a pan first, and then cooked it like you would cook rice with water. And I actually cooked this in some vegetable stock instead of water, so it adds extra flavor and nutrients to the grain.
Well, I'm excited to see how the millet fits into the dish, but the other thing that I don't recognize is this almost gooey peanut butter substance. What is this?
This is miso. It's a Japanese condiment or seasoning, and it's made with soya beans and salt and koji that gets fermented into this delicious umami paste, and it's fantastic for your gut.
If you're advocating for eating more plants as a better way for the planet, animals, and our bodies, this is how you do it.
Thanks, Mira. You've really taught me about what it means to be mindful about what we cook and how expressive it can be, particularly around plant-based cooking. Can't wait to go home and try some of these.
That's exactly what I wanted to do, was to inspire people to eat more plants, to cook creatively, and to enjoy the diversity of fresh produce from the garden, and to know that eating plant-based and eating whole foods is not just guacamole and roast veg, and it's absolutely delicious and abundant.
Another of McGregor's hidden gems represents the final achievement of Billy Kennedy's long journey in search of a spiritual home for himself.
Well, Temenos started some 20 years ago, and I always had a vision to create a space that would be very still and quiet, and a place where people could come for healing, or also to get in touch with their inner lives. I think a sense of the sacred, because Temenos is known as this beautiful garden where you can reconnect with yourself more deeply. A lot of people who don't know about it walk through the gate and they get this huge surprise. I always say it's the best kept secret in the Western Cape, because you come into the garden and suddenly there's a stillness, but also a great openness.
Billy trained as a Catholic priest only to make a career as a documentary producer. That search for meaning led here.
The reason we started this was that anyone could come. So it's not linked to a specific philosophy or a religion. This is a place for anybody to just encounter stillness and silence. So we offer that first and foremost. People come on retreat and they just enjoy being still. But other people come on workshops, and those are guided retreats. We have meditation retreats, prayer retreats, we have healing retreats, and we also have people, many people, just return again and again because they love the quietness, no distractions, no television, no radio, just being with yourself. It's so amazing. I've been here 20 years and it feels like I started yesterday. And when I started the garden, there was nothing here. It was just a piece of barren veldt.
To feed those who come on retreat, they started a restaurant. But it's food for the soul, which most guests are hungry for.
So the chapel is so important because it all began here. And I called it the Little Way because for me, if we're going to talk about the spiritual life, it's not about preaching and going out there. It's more about just having this place to be quiet and live the little way. So this is a very special icon at Temenos, the icon of Jesus and the Buddha, which kind of symbolizes the coming together of the East and West, the great spiritual traditions, and we honor all those traditions and people find their way of honoring it personally.
Maybe Billy's finest contribution is a part of his garden which affirms how much every faith and all spirituality has in common.
And here, Jared, we have the spiral, which has now become a forest. When I started, there were no trees here. So this space here honors all the great faiths in the world. So everyone feels welcome if they follow a specific path.
If you look at different accommodation options, almost everywhere gives you a bed. It's hopefully comfortable, somewhere to relax and something to eat, but there's something much deeper here. And I think that's why people like myself come here from all over the country and in fact from different places in the world. They're seeking that deeper experience. And there's something sacred about being here. And I suppose that's what I've discovered from the conversations I've had today with various people who live here and why they've come here. It's in search of mindfulness, a quieter lifestyle, and perhaps something that's a little bit deeper. And if I'm honest, this is possibly the most peaceful town that I visited in South Africa.
In this town on a road to nowhere, Jared Ruttenburg has seen that whichever rainbow you're chasing to get here, McGregor is as close to finding a pot of gold as you can get. Still to come, after recording a mixtape of some of his all-time favorites, Jay Something takes a new show on the road. During lockdown, Jay Something rediscovered songs that shaped his music by the likes of Stimela, Michael Jackson, and yes, Mikasa. Realizing what a hidden treasure they were, he and some friends re-recorded 10 of them, and now he's taking those songs on tour.
Music has allowed me to travel, it's allowed me to learn, it's allowed me to explore, it's allowed me to, inspire and be inspired from. It's been such a blessing. I think that often we're so far ahead of that journey that we want to figure out how to make it in music, for example, which is something that I hear quite often. And I think back to my journey, I never applied that mentality, I just made music. I think that the important thing is to just take that first step of vulnerability to just make it and showcase it. I always said that, I make a song and I feel it, I can't wait to go and give it to people, because then I come with my weight, and my weight as an artist is the biggest weight that you will ever feel. And then we share in that energy, but yeah, just do it.
Alongside music, it's coffee that helped preserve his sanity over the last 2 years.
I do spend a little too much money on coffee, but it's one of my passions. So yeah, I did a barista course, and I absolutely love it. It's my moment in the morning where I'm all alone. I'm here in my house, 5 o'clock in the morning. It's quiet. You hear the birds, and you chill, and you make yourself a cup of coffee, and you just taking some fresh air. We get caught up in what makes the right cup of coffee and what makes the right wine. And I'm no connoisseur, I think that you have your palate, and I think you should trust your palate. It's not about I taste the peaches, and I'm not that guy, man. I taste like a good cup of coffee. It feels good, it warms me up, makes me happy, and that's what you should be looking for.
Sipping his favorite brew, it's here that Jay's almost 2-year-long project took steady shape.
Hey yo, welcome to my studio. Come on in. I'm constantly trying to be as present as possible so that I can be as aware as possible, so that I can ingest as much as possible, so that I can be inspired by as much as possible. And I think that for me, it's every day is such a gift. And I think it's trying to live in that moment, because within that moment, there are so many gifts. So I think it's all inspiring. The good, the bad, the hard, the easy, these are all given to us as potential lessons. I sat in this house and it was lockdown, and I think everybody's got their own story, which I think we should become a little bit more proud and bold of our stories. Within our stories, we find our uniqueness. Here I was, this is a room that I've written and recorded many songs. I had not only nothing to do, but I saw pretty much majority of my revenue disappear. I started to think like, since I have all this time, let me rework these songs in a way that I would like to hear them. And they started to sound more and more amazing. And then when lockdown finished, I sat with this whole bunch of music that I had personally overplayed to death.
It's a daily ritual of putting pen to paper which unlocks the songs.
There are a couple of habits that I've instilled into my life that I think have been extremely valuable, and I would encourage anybody to take them on. One of them being journaling. I think just have a little moment where you pause and you debrief, or you just download onto paper and pen. I love writing. I'm a songwriter that loves writing on books, and there's something about pen and paper. I've been doing it all my life since I was a kid, since I started writing music. Because even if it's just one line, or it's 2 pages, just depends on how you're feeling. It's always a nice thing to reflect back on as well.
As for Mikasa fans, have faith. Our Sama-winning duo have been laying down new tracks.
When I look at this new body of work that Mikasa's working on, we were in Germany and we were in Portugal for a couple of weeks, and I think about a collab that happened because we were all just in the same room. And we got to meet each other, we got to break bread, we got to talk. And then all of a sudden there was this energy and synergy, and then we birthed music. It's easy for me to say, I want to work with a big name. It's not really my interest. I want to work with people that I can connect with. I want to work with people that feel the energy, feel the vibe. And being in a band, we constantly collabing between myself, Moti, and Dr. Duda. That's the fun of being in a band, is that you're never alone. Creativity is vulnerability. Creativity is expressing yourself in a world that tries to dictate what you should be like, sound like, look like. And creativity is being able to say, you know what, I hear all of that, but here's who I am. And putting yourself out there, whether it's an idea, whether it's a song, whether it's a look, whatever it may be. I think creativity is the expression of your authentic self, and it's a very vulnerable act.
Armed with a backstory, we joined the man as he set off to introduce the indoor tracks to fans in Cape Town, Durban and Joburg.
Lockdown, yes, did also come as a blessing to us because it just really got each member out of their comfort zone. And Jay's the first person to present this beautiful project, called Indoor.
People know me for a certain thing, and I love Mikasa and that side of me as an artist, but there's more to me, and this is me expressing myself in a more soulful way and more what I hear when I'm alone. And I think the theatrical part of it, the experience, the live part will be a story about an artist during lockdown and the power of music and how it managed to help one person, me, to find joy in a time of sadness.
Get away, get away, get away. That's all I wanna do. Spend a little time with you, oh baby. Yeah, yeah.
Another feel-good production.